The world is starting to pay attention, not to the footage, not to the claims, but to the outcome. A U.S. aircraft was hit inside Iran, and since then, one question keeps coming up. How did that happen? Because if this is accurate, this isn't just an incident, it's a shift in how modern warfare is playing out. Initial reports are still fragmented. That's expected. In any active conflict, information arrives in pieces. Some reports suggest the aircraft was damaged, others go further. There are also indications that the pilot was recovered. Nothing is fully confirmed yet. But in military analysis, early details are not always the priority. Patterns are. And the pattern here stands out. U.S. air assets typically operate with a high degree of control, not just because of technology, but because of planning, positioning, threat assessment. So when something like this happens, it suggests a gap, and gaps at that level don't appear randomly. They usually point to change, either in the threat environment or in the assumptions behind the mission, or both. A lot of attention has gone to the platform itself, but that misses the point. Aircraft like the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II are not outdated in the way people often assume. They're specialized, built for a specific role: close air support, operating low, staying on target, absorbing damage, and still making it back. That's what they're designed to do. And historically, they've done it well. But every system has limits, and those limits are rarely defined by age. They're defined by environment. When the environment changes, performance changes with it. For years, Iran has been viewed through a familiar lens, a capable regional power, consistent but not dominant in the air domain. That perception may be outdated, because the real change hasn't been about adding more systems. It's been about structuring them. Integration, coordination, layering, discipline in how those layers are built and used. That kind of shift doesn't draw attention immediately. It develops quietly until it starts producing results. There's a tendency to look for a single answer, one system, one weapon, but modern air defense doesn't work that way. It operates as a network. Detection happens at range. Tracking follows. Engagement decisions are layered. And if a target pushes deeper, the inner layers take over. This is where a lot of misconceptions come in, because the focus is usually on large, visible systems. Long-range radar, high-profile missile platforms. But in many cases, the final layer is what actually matters. Short-range systems, fast, low-profile, sometimes operating with minimal radar reliance. Some analysts point to systems like the 9K-333 Verba as a possibility, not because it's confirmed, but because it fits the profile. Low-altitude target, close engagement window, limited reaction time. In that space, even a resilient aircraft becomes vulnerable. At this point, attention naturally expands toward Russia, not as a direct actor, but as an influence. The relationship between Russia and Iran is well established. It spans years. Across military and technological domains, the layered defense approach seen here closely resembles doctrines long associated with Russian systems. Platforms like the S-300 often come up in this context. Not necessarily as the system used in this specific incident, but as a reference point, a framework, a way of thinking about air defense. That's what analysts are noticing, not control, but influence. Some are quick to label this a proxy war. That's premature. That term implies direct control, operational coordination, clear command relationships. Those elements have not been publicly established, but calling this coincidence doesn't hold either. There are patterns. There is alignment, shared interests, complementary capabilities, and a strategic environment that allows those elements to converge. The focus then shifts back to the United States. Was this a miscalculation or an accepted risk? Platforms like the A-10 are used for a reason. They're efficient, reliable, well-suited for certain mission sets, but every operation is built on assumptions about threat levels, about enemy capability, about operational conditions. If any of those assumptions are off, outcomes change, and that's not unusual in military history. What matters is how quickly those assumptions are reassessed. What we're seeing is not just an isolated event, it's an indicator. Airspace that was once considered manageable is becoming contested in new ways. Lower altitude zones are no longer low risk. Systems once seen as secondary are becoming decisive. Aircraft like the Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II still have a role. They remain effective, but the environment around them has evolved, and that evolution matters. What we're seeing is still unfolding. The full picture isn't available yet. Details will change, more information will come out, but the direction is already becoming clear. Iran is showing increased capability. Russia's influence is being closely watched. And the United States is operating in a more complex environment than before. So the question isn't just about strength, it's about adaptation. Who understands the shift faster? Who adjusts more effectively? That's what will matter going forward. I'd be interested to hear your perspective. Do you see this as an isolated incident or part of a larger shift? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you find this kind of analysis useful, consider supporting the channel. Like, subscribe, and share. It helps keep this kind of content going. And as always, this analysis is based on open source information, media reports, and observed patterns, not definitive conclusions. Because in situations like this, understanding evolves over time.